So a lot has changed since my last upload, with it now being 1 year. There have been a lot of balance updates to many items in Terraria, and as I was watching some videos to catch up on these changes, I came across one video titled "How Good is Obsidian Armor in 1.4.4?" And when I scrolled down, another YouTuber had a lot of things to say about this video, and one thing led to another. I clicked on his response video and I noticed something pretty weird. Now, originally, years ago, I and many others have thought that the imp staff was the best summon in pre-hard mode by far. But watching Shy Guy Mask's video, I noticed that he wasn't using any at all, and he was instead using a mix of vampire frogs, lynxes, and even finches. And this led me to dig a little deeper, and I found another video titled "Minion iframes are important," which had a lot of pretty interesting stuff to say about Terraria summons. And in this video, I just want to give a brief roundup and summary of all of my findings, and basically everything that's changed for summoner class in pre-hard mode, and show why the imp staff is not the best summon anymore. This won't be an in-depth breakdown or anything. I'll leave that up to other people, and I'll leave the links to the videos I watched in the description below, so be sure to check those out. So if you find any of these things interesting, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So when you think about it, what I'm saying might not really make sense, right? Because how is a pre-boss weapon supposedly perform better than something that you find at the end of pre-hard mode? Well, first, the 1.4.1 update added two key changes for pre-hard mode summoner. First, they added the Flink Staff, which was another option between the pre-boss and pre-hard mode phases of the game. And second, they buffed the Vampire Frog Staff, so now they deal contact damage, and more importantly, they have independent immunity timers. These two key changes is kind of what made the Imp Staff obsolete, and that is what we are going to test out today. Each run, I've used the same accessories, buffs, and weapons, except for the summons, of course. Now, they might not be 100% perfect and accurate, but they should give a general idea of how good they are compared to each other. I'll also be using both the Obsidian armor and B armor for the test to kind of see if the different armor sets affect the damage output and performance. The first boss here is the Eye of Cthulhu. Even though the stuff I'm using is obtained well beyond after beating him, I think it's just a good indicator of just damage. Now the first loadout is the one with Obsidian armor and the mix of summons. It took around 25 seconds to kill the eye. Average DPS was around 200, and it peaked at nearly 400 when the boss was transforming. For the second run, where I just used the imp staff instead, I got pretty similar results where it took around 25 seconds to kill. It averaged slightly higher DPS with around 200 to 250, but it peaked a bit lower at around 350. However, when I used the B armor, the difference became a little bit more noticeable. Took around, again, 25 seconds, the average DPS being around 150 to over 200, and it peaked at over 350 DPS. On the other hand, the imp staff was slightly slower at 27 seconds. It did average a bit higher at around the mid 200s, but it peaked a lot lower at just 300. Now, those tests weren't like super conclusive or anything, but I think it showed the general idea of why the imp staff isn't that great anymore. So I also did some testing with Skeletron. but this time I only use B armor. Now I will say that my times are really bad. I've seen people do Skeletron much faster than me, but the results still say consistent. So the mix of summons is much faster, with it only taking 90 seconds, while the imps take nearly 15 seconds longer at around 105. And this time again, the imp staff had more consistent damage, but the other loadout had a much higher peak when Skeletron wasn't moving as much and it was just spinning around. So to sum up both of the tests, imps can output more consistent damage, but the higher peaks of the other summons make up for faster times. The flinks, vampire frogs, and finches can shred any enemy that stands still, but I find that it sometimes struggles when an enemy flies in the air or dashes around. So why is this even happening? Like I mentioned at the start, this is because of something known as iframes. In short, any entity is granted brief immunity after taking damage, so it basically prevents the number of times you can actually hit an enemy. This means using a mix of summons like the ones shown in the video is more effective than sticking to just one type of summon. For example, most people choose to use 2 summons of each kind to maximize the window for damage. Of course, this means you can also include imps into your rotation, but in my opinion, doing so doesn't really provide a damage increase significant enough to kind of justify the time or cost of getting one. And I'm pretty sure in hard mode, mixing these summons is less viable because most of the summons start to use local iframes, which is something you can find out in Terrasteel's video. So is the imp staff even worth going for now? I would actually say no, but of course it is still an okay option and does seem to be a little more consistent, but from the testing and reasons I listed earlier, you can skip the staff to save some time. Furthermore, and probably most importantly, the best strategy for the Wall of Flesh doesn't even utilize the imps anymore. As you can see from this footage, using the mix of summons is much more faster and reliable. This kind of leaves the imp staff in a weird state because while it's supposed to be the best summon for pre-hard mode, its damage potential is still outclassed by some early game weapons. Of course, this entire video can be made obsolete within the next few months because of the 1.4.5 update, where there are supposedly more balance changes coming to the game. But for now, you should stick with the mixed summons as shown in the video. Thank you to everyone who has made it to the end of the video. I know it's been a while since my last upload, but I'll try to upload at least a video or 2 in the next month, and hopefully 1.4.5 can come out so I can cover that. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe.